Hello, Troy Edwards. Uh, Speech number 2 for Eastern Gateway Community College's public speaking class. Supposed to show you 3 things that say something about me and talk about them. Disregard the poster of Spencer for Hire back there. That would take an entirely speech in and of itself to explain. But I will draw attention to the guitars here. When I was a kid, pretty much my entire life revolved around 2 things: writing and music. I wanted to be a combination of Elvis Presley and Ernest Hemingway. Didn't work out that way, but I still keep them, even though I don't play them that much anymore. When I was 5 years old, Elvis Presley died, and being at such a important point in my development, being inundated with that imagery of Elvis Presley performing and really made an impression upon me, and I thought to myself, that's what I want to do. And so I picked up playing the guitar and writing songs and singing and stuff, and in addition to writing, and that's what I enjoyed up until probably my early 20s when I got married. The other thing I'd like to draw attention to is the books behind me. You can't see on the floor. There are many more books. I have hundreds of books. I love books. I love reading. On top of reading, I also love books themselves. I love the tactile experience of a book. I love the smell of a book. I'm not much for e-readers. I like to have the book. I like old books. Some of the ones back here I'll never read. They're just here because I like them and I like having them. I have everything from a Rwandan Bible to a 1920s physics reference book. Right now I'm reading 3 books. I have a tendency to leave them in different places, and I read several books at a time. One is The Mill and the Floss by George Eliot, Shop Girl by Steve Martin, and Dominion by Matthew Scully. That's just what I'm reading at the moment. The third thing that I would draw your attention to would be the skull right there. Very realistic looking skull. It's one of my memento mori, which memento mori translates from Latin into remember you're going to die. It's a philosophy, a way of looking at the world that goes back a very long time. Back to Greek philosophy days, where I forget who it was, I think it was Socrates or Plato, somebody said that philosophy really is about dying and being dead. Roman generals would have somebody stand behind them as they were being paraded victoriously through the streets of Rome, who would hold a crown above their heads and tell them, remember that you're human, remember that you're going to die. And they would whisper that in their ears as they were being lauded by everyone else to help them keep perspective. In the 15th through the 17th century was sort of the heyday for the philosophy of memento mori. And it really just emphasizes the vanity of putting too much emphasis on the material world. That none of this will matter. I'm going to die, and my body's going to rot away, and so will yours. And much of modern thought tends to avoid talking about that, and I think that's a mistake. And I think that the more we can keep our perspective in how fleeting and unimportant so many things are, the more we can enjoy the things that are really important, and the less pain we cause ourselves, because we're not attached to these things that are all corruptible. So I keep these around to remind me when I get my head full of things that don't matter. Out of the corner of my eye, I'll catch sight of something like that to remind myself that it doesn't matter, that none of this matters. The things that matter are intangible. If I can touch it, it's going to fade away. Memento mori, remember you're going to die. Thank you. That's my presentation, and I hope I wasn't too boring. And Mr. Lugo, I'm trying to look at the camera, but it's hard to tell exactly where the camera is on this. Thanks.